Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about Stanford's Elimination of Harmful Language initiative and the university's sort of dismissing it or trying to minimize what exactly this document is doing at the university and why exactly it exists in the first place. But we're going to get into that at the end of this video on the update that the university has given. So this initiative is basically a list of words Stanford doesn't want people to use, and they give a suggestion as to what words you can use instead and why exactly the word they're saying not to use is problematic. So this is basically an index of words not to use. Initially, this list or this initiative document, it's as old as May, but it only recently got discovered on the internet, and then I heard about it from the Wall Street Journal. So the Wall Street Journal says that since people online had found it, Stanford actually put this document behind a password protection. So I'm not sure why they don't want you to know what's in it, but I have the document and I looked over it and I highlighted a few things that I wanted to go over with you guys. So the document is 13 pages and, like I said, includes like a whole list of words and reasonings of why not to use them and what a better alternative is. So this Elimination of Harmful Language initiative says the Elimination of Harmful Language initiative is a multi-phase, multi-year project to address harmful language in IT at Stanford. It says the goal of the Elimination of Harmful Language initiative is to eliminate many forms of harmful language, including racist, violent, and biased, like disability bias, ethnic slurs, gender bias, implicit bias, sexual bias, language in Stanford's websites and code. So put a pin in that because Stanford tries to minimize what exactly this means and what this document is intended for because they say it's for Stanford websites with an S. So it says the purpose of this website is to educate people about the possible impact of the words we use. Language affects different people in different ways. We are not attempting to assign levels of harm to the terms on this site. We also are not attempting to address all informal uses of language. So even on this information page, they have a content warning stating this website contains language that is offensive or harmful. Please engage with this website at your own pace. So you should be expecting these words to be so triggering. You know, it needed a content warning. These are going to be derogatory terms. But let's get into it. So the first term I've highlighted is blind review. Instead of saying blind review, they want you to say anonymous review because it unintentionally perpetuates that disability is somehow abnormal or negative, furthering an ableist culture. I'm not sure how a blind review would do that. Are they saying like blind people are offended by that? I'm not blind. I don't know, but I would be very surprised to learn that. And these people seem to be very obsessed with masks because instead of saying blind study, they want you to say masked study because they can't get enough of their mask. And they give the same exact reasoning about it being an ableist culture. Somehow they think blind people are really, really offended by this terminology, which I do not believe them whatsoever. But this was supposed to be a content warning. Doesn't seem like what you're used to in a content warning. Oh, and don't you use that word crazy. They want you to use surprising or wild because, again, ableist language that trivializes the experience of people living with mental health conditions. I'm sorry. They are crazy. They are not wild or surprising. This is crazy. This is not surprising. This is not wild. This is crazy. So again, instead of using the word insane, they want you to use surprising or wild, and they give the same exact reason. Nope. This is insane. This is not surprising or wild. This is insane. This language is different than you and I would probably use it in our normal day-to-day. When we're saying crazy or insane, it's not really being used as a derogatory word. Sometimes you might be like, you are crazy, you are insane. And in that case, yeah, that is used in a derogatory way. And me to the authors of this list, you are crazy and you are insane. And I mean that with the most offense possible. So now we get into like the culture section. So they somehow have an issue with the word brave. And they just say there is no alternative. Do not use this word at all. And they say it's because of the stereotype of a noble, courageous savage, equating the indigenous male as being less than a man. I don't see that. Calling someone brave is a compliment. So they just want to make it a negative word. I don't know. So now we're moving into the gender-based language that Stanford is taking issue with. And the first one is preferred pronouns. Instead, they want you to say pronouns because they say the word preferred suggests that non-binary gender identity is a choice and a preference. But the thing is, if you have preferred pronouns, they are your preferred pronouns. I don't know why they take issue with it, just like I don't know why they take issue with anything here. If you know why they take issue with this, let me know in the comments below. So continuing on, this document also now is taking issue with freshmen. They want you to call people frosh or first-year students because it lumps a group of students using masculine language and or into a gender binary groups that don't include everyone. Freshmen. No one thinks of that like, oh, that's masculine language. Oh, men, I'm offended. Even the most insane feminist or postmodernist, I've never heard this type of critique. And, I went to high school. I went to university. I went to school with these people, and I never, ever heard this criticism. I don't know where this criticism comes from. And again, something now I'm going to get in trouble with. Guys, they're taking issue with like saying like, hey guys, and that's how I start my videos. So they're taking issue with guys. They're saying instead of using guys, you should say folks or people, everyone, like, hey everyone, hey people, hey folks. And it just says this term reinforces male-dominated language. This is nitpicking. This is stupid. Stupid. I'm surprised they don't. I think maybe they do, but I'll be surprised if stupid is not in this stupid book. Oh, and they take issue with he. You say the person's name or they instead. Unless you know the person you're addressing uses he as their pronouns, it is better to use they or to ask the person which pronouns they use. No. It is so weird to be like, what pronouns do you use? If someone is showing off as a male, I'm going to use he. It's just obvious. And if you are upset, you'll correct me. And I'll decide if I want to be corrected. You know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of like, this is how social interactions work. And they're trying to like make social interactions these weird things of like, you have to ask people like, what is your sex? What's your age? Where are you from? Before you can just have a normal human interaction where it's like, people don't care. Large majority of people do not have this weird, large majority of people don't have this thing where you need to call them by their name or their pronouns are perfectly. This is such a minuscule amount of people who take issue with this. So why is this going to dictate our whole language and our whole social interactions with the 99.9999% of the world? All of this sort of just reminds me of when Justin Trudeau said the people kind comment. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll give you a refresher here.
So that's why we came here today to ask you to also look into the policies that religious charitable organizations have in our legislation so that it can also be changed, because maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look into
we
that.
like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind.
So
That probably reminded you about this. And now that you have this in your mind, the next one will make sense. So this is where the Justin Trudeau thing comes in. They take issue with mankind. They would rather people say people, humankind, human beings, and they just say it reinforces male-dominated language. It's not male-dominated language. It's literally just language. How language has always been. No one really thinks of it the way they think of it. This one is a real kicker, though. They take issue with the word abort, which, I mean, if it's not abortion rights, they want you to say cancel or end. So cancel rights, end rights. They say this term can unintentionally raise religious, moral concerns over abortion. I've never really, like, if you're using abort, like abort the mission, it's not really, like, that doesn't even come to my head. These people are like so in the weeds that this is something like they're being so cautious about. It's like language is supposed to be something beautiful, like jazz music, where you don't always have to be perfect. It's actually more perfectly imperfect, if that makes sense. Oh, and this is the one that like a lot of people hit on about if you've seen this story. They take issue with the term American. Instead, they want you to say U.S. citizen. And their reasoning is that this term often refers to people from the United States only, thereby insinuating that the U.S. is the most important country in the Americas, which is actually made up of 42 countries. Everyone knows what you mean when you say you are an American. Otherwise, you stand from the Americas, which no one says, because why would you say like what region of the world? It's like you're just going to say the country you're from. I guess Canadians are now Americans. Like, no, Canadians would hate to be called an American. They would hate it. They would actually hate that so much. And then, so this is why I know these people are so completely out of touch, because instead of saying Hispanic, they want you to say Latinx or use the country of origin. And then they say, although widely used to describe people from Spanish-speaking countries outside of Spain, its roots lie in Spain's colonization of South American countries. Instead of referring to someone as Hispanic because of their name or appearance, ask them how they identify themselves first. Most people will not care if you call them Hispanic or like a Latina, Latino. They will be offended if you call them Latinx. I guarantee, give it a try. Just do it. I dare you. Do it. I want to see what happens. And then they're also now taking issue with people of color. The word they've been telling you to use instead of calling someone like, black or I don't know. It's just mind-blowing. They want you to call people of color instead BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So they use the term you're not supposed to use within the term they say to use. Yeah. And I thought that was kind of weird. That was an interesting one because for so long they don't want you to call people Hispanic, Black, or anything. They want you to say people of color. And now they're saying, nope, call them BIPOC. Yeah. So now we're getting into like the sexuality stuff. So now calling someone straight is an offensive that needs a content warning for So instead of calling someone straight, they want you to call them heterosexual because this term implies that anyone who is not heterosexual is bent or not normal. Interesting. So it's not that you're offending straight people, it's that you're offending people who are not straight by using the term to talk about someone that someone else is going to get offended about. Okay, get it. So now we're getting into the institutionalized racism section. So something I've kind of always heard my whole life used, black sheep. You know, never taken on a racial lens, connotation. It's just kind of like rare. You know, you don't see many black sheeps. It's just a rare thing. Instead, they want you to say outcast, which I don't, in some ways, that's kind of what a black sheep is, but it doesn't totally encompass it. So like when you say black sheep, most people like in the English language have like a good idea of what that means, but outcast can mean a multitude of things because outcast is kind of not necessarily a positive thing to say, while black sheep, depending on the context of when and how it's used, is actually can be seen as more of like a positive or a differentiating thing. Outcast is sometimes not the term I would think to use to describe certain situations or certain people. So it says that the reason they don't want to use black sheep, though, is it assigns negative connotations to the color black, racializing the term. Why? Why is that assigning a negative connotation to the color black? Being a black sheep is not necessarily a bad thing, but you're making it a bad thing by calling a black sheep an outcast. You can just be a black sheep of the family, meaning like, you know, you're just different than your family members. Maybe your family members suck and you're like the only good person in your family. Therefore, you're a black sheep. Does that mean the color black is a bad thing? Actually, no. In that case, it's not. So they're the ones, you know, attaching a negative connotation to that terminology. No one else did but them. So we get into like a lot of just this violent category. Abusive relationship. Nope, they don't like that word. Relationship with an abusive person. They say the relationship doesn't commit abuse, a person does. So it is important to make that fact clear. I don't know. I think actually abusive relationship is a better term. In certain cases, it's just an overall abusive relationship of two parties, not just one person. It could be both people. So it's like abusive relationship with two people, abusive relationship with one victim. Like, I think these are better than just saying like relationship with an abusive person. Just abusive relationship is an abusive relationship. These are like two of the same. And they're taking issue with beating a dead horse. Another just like classic terminology. So they want you to say refuse or refusing to let something go because this expression normalizes violence against animals. No, it doesn't. It actually doesn't. And they say the same exact reason for killing two birds with one stone. They want you to say accomplishing two things at once. Nope. I like using more interesting expressions, more interesting terms. It's just better language. It makes language more fun. It makes language like more like creative. I mean, like you get these imageries. It's just why do they want to distill language into this like boring thing where everything has to be pronoun this, pronoun blah, blah, blah. It's just like awful. Like this is why literature today sucks, because of these people. So this is a great segue off into Stanford trying to like take a step back from this document now that they are supposedly hiding. So they put up an update about, you know, this whole list of words, why it's there, what's the reason, why people are upset about it. So on December 20th, Stanford put an update about this Elimination of Harmful Language initiative. So they said over the last couple of days, there has been much discussion of a website that provides advice for the IT community at Stanford about word choices in Stanford's websites and code. This message seeks to provide clarification about some of the issues discussed. So they say, first and importantly, the website does not represent university policy. It does not represent mandates or requirements. The website was created by and intended for discussion within the IT community at Stanford. It provides suggested alternatives for various terms and reasons why those terms could be problematic in certain uses. Its aspiration and the reasons for its development is to support an inclusive community. We have particularly heard concern about the guide's treatment of the term American. We understand and appreciate those concerns. To be very clear, not only is the use of the term American not banned at Stanford, it is absolutely welcomed. To me, this update of theirs kind of seems like they're trying to minimize what exactly was in this document, minimize what they meant by the words in the document, minimize even the usage of this document. I mean, the document said it was for the usage of Stanford websites with an S. So it does seem like it's something within use, not just like within the IT community. I mean, who does the websites? IT community, duh. So it's like it does have far-reaching pull within the Stanford community at least, but it's more than that because it's creating a culture within the university structure of like how to use language and what language is acceptable. And I think that's the overarching theme there that they're trying to minimize in people's criticism of this document. My criticism is it actually seems more offensive to disabled people. Who asked for it? I mean, that's a big criticism. I'm like, who asked for this? I'm not sure who. It just seems like a ridiculous document. And it's just more bureaucracy for the website developers or for the IT people who are building websites, who are putting information on websites to be so careful. Like, is someone going to get in trouble if they say one of these terms? I mean, why would Stanford even use the terminology black sheep? So when they're saying, oh, it's for these usages of like what not to use on their websites, I also don't believe them because there would be no reason to use terminologies like a black sheep or to call a spade a spade. Like these are not things that would normally be on a university website. So I don't believe them that it's for website creation. I believe it's actually to create a certain culture within the university, going even so far as trying to create that culture within the IT. And like usually the IT is like that is like a background thing. And like any business, anything, like the IT is like a background thing, but they're trying to implement these language controls, language policing within kind of things that you wouldn't expect them. You know, you always see this like the seminar when university students get on campus, if they do these seminars, they were awful. But this is like now they're creating these like little packages for the IT guys and the IT female. Like just, it's too much. So what did you think about Stanford's update? And what did you think about the language guide? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you subscribe and you liked this video. Please leave me a comment and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.